Hello and welcome to another episode of my YouTube channel where I chat freely about art, mostly about colored pencils. I'm Päivi, a full-time artist, and my idea in these video blog posts are to inspire you to create and to inspire you to pick those dusty colored pencils and start creating with them. I'm an oil painter, but I use colored pencils for imagining all kinds of things, and I love to use them in a more illustrative way than what I do in my paintings. I think we'll start with the thing that I've spent most of my time in the past month if I think about colored pencils work, and that's my new class, which hasn't come out yet, but I'm building it and I hope to release it on Black Friday weekend. I don't show much, but I show just a little, just some teasers. And one thing that I want to show you is the container, the box that I made for my class projects. The working title for the class, which is probably the final title, I'm not sure yet, but it sounds really good, is Doll World. And it's about making sort of paper dolls, but also practicing different kind of poses, practicing drawing humans, but not so stiff or, how would I say, serious way, but more like in illustrations, more like in fantasy illustrations. So in a more romantic and in a more whimsical way. But still, it's a sort of fun class with a with a serious skill that you get when you do the projects, is that we practice drawing different poses and looking at the human figure from different perspective, which is not easy, especially when we don't use any reference photos. But still, I show how it's fun and how you can make things look easier. And one thing is to create beautiful dresses that hide some parts of the body, and that way you don't have to draw everything, but you can just sketch the body and then put all the lovely ruffles and such. I enjoy drawing clothing and I enjoy decorating with colored pencils. Always when I start building a class, I want to create some kind of a container. Often it's a journal or something like that, but I also like to create boxes, which I call boxes of joy. I have several videos about them, and now I've made a new box of joy, and it's this kind of red box. And in the last video I drew a little motif of roses, and it's there in the box. I come closer so that you can see better. So I've used the motif from the last video here, glued it on the box, and there's several other decorative motifs too. And I wanted this to look, not group the motifs this time, even if grouping is always an effective way to compose collage pieces. But this time I wanted to put them separately so that it indicates that there must be some small scrap reliefs inside the box. My box is full of really inspiring little girls, all kinds of flowers, funny flowers too. all kinds of floral decorations and you know, bigger decorations, big and small, because every class is wonderful when you have both bigger and smaller projects. So I have quite lovely stuff here. Now when I've had these boxes of pencils organized by color family, I've realized what my favorite colors really are. Because I thought that my favorite colors are reds. Because, you know, every time I go to art supply store and look at the pencils that are sold separately, I always feel drawn to reds and pinks especially. But I've realized that I use yellows the most. I do know that I like yellows quite a lot, but I didn't realize how much I use them. Yellows is maybe not so exciting to shop, but definitely something that I like to use a lot. And then blues also. I don't buy so many blues. I have to start buy them more. And greens. Yellows and greens. My favorites. I think this episode is kind of green episode, and you'll figure it out why. But then, you know, yeah, I have to force myself to use reds nowadays, and I have plenty of them. And then this problem that I have, a sort of problem of having too many, is having too many blacks and whites. Because, you know, every time you buy a set, you get black and white. And then it's so easy when you find a new brand, for example. I like to try different brands. It seems that I bought white and black and then some colors. But I now stop buying white and black for a while and use them first. Yeah, I like this kind of stash analyzing. As I said in the previous episode, that working with the stash is for me, it's as important as working with the art. It's funny, but I like my art supplies to be so that I like to touch them and I like the feel of them. I like to take care of them. I like to keep them sharp. And I like to store them so that I can look at them and I can see them and I can see if there's a pencil that has been neglected, and I like to use the shorties. And yeah, and in this episode I think that you will see quite a lot of stuff that is not so color focused, but more like that I've just picked a short pencil and thought that I could use that up, and then I've colored some. But yeah, but well, that's one approach for coloring. And speaking of coloring, I have something to show you. I have an artist friend called Eeva Nikunen. She's brilliant in drawing. She has got a really successful project lately. Colouring Heaven, a British company that publishes colouring books, has published her collection of Alice in Wonderland colouring pages. And I have a Finnish version, because, you know, this is not a small thing, because, you know, when I go to the grocery store, I see Eeva's book there. And this is not just me in Finland, but, you know, you everywhere in the world, you probably, where you find Colouring Heaven's colouring books, you will find now Eeva's a version of Alice in Wonderland. So it's called Alice in Wonderland Special. In Finnish, Liisa Ihmemaassa Spesiaali. We call Alice Liisa. This is one of Eeva's favorite themes. It has 40 coloring pages. These are my favorites that I've marked. And surprise, surprise, these are all men. I think Eva is exceptionally good at drawing men. I think she draws men that, you know, are every woman's dream. So sort of introvert, romantic souls. And I absolutely love her male figures. I love them so much that I've even bought an original drawing from her. I can't remember what the drawing originally was titled, but I call him Magician Taikuri. This piece is placed in our library room, and I just love the old world romance that is there. It's so beautifully drawn with graphite pencils. Eva is also very skillful at drawing clothing. There's a lot of images that are really fun to color because there's so much details and so beautiful clothing. I've colored one page. It was one Saturday, you know, I wanted to think about all the things that had happened that week. There was plenty. And one of the things was that I went to a workshop of virtual reality. The theme was virtual reality and art. And it was so inspiring. I'm definitely going to try to get deeper into that subject, and I just loved the workshop and all the inspiration that I got. But it also caused that I got so much new ideas that I needed to process them. And you know, colored pencils are great for that. Of course, knitting is also great. I also knit a lot. But this time I wanted to just color, not think about anything too much, not calculate anything or such. So I picked the first page, which brought virtual reality in my mind. Because there's a girl, Alice, on the phone, and I love how her hand is there, and she's maybe a bit surprised or doesn't want to reveal herself or something. I left that hand lighter so that it can be seen more clearly. This is Alice calling to Wonderland, but it's somehow like me and the virtual reality world, a new world, and I'm sort of calling there. But still holding my breath. What could I do there? What could be my project there? One way to think about coloring pages is that the one who has drawn them has sort of made a foundation, and then you can integrate your story there. And use that as a starting point for expression and for telling a story. Earlier I said that maybe this is a green episode, and maybe so, that it's just that even if I try to focus on colored pencils mostly and on art, then there's some things that can't be separated from them, and one of them is my love for plants. Orchids are one of my favorite plants, and my big orchid, Wanda orchid, is in full bloom. And this is something that I've tried to achieve for a couple of years. In the beginning of spring, I said to my husband that I'm so tired of taking care of Wanda that if I can't make her bloom this summer, I have to get rid of her. I just can't continue. Well, now you think that how can a plant requires so much care. Well, Wanda doesn't have any pot, so it has to be watered several times a week. And I put her in a water bucket and let her be there for half an hour or for an hour approximately. And then I lift her up again and put her near the window and near the lights. She spent the whole summer outside, and I had to fetch her every day because the summer was so hot. It was windy and such, so she dried very quickly. And I had to pick her up every day and take her to drink. I say she and her because, you know, when you take care of a plant so much, it's not just a plant, it becomes a person really. Here you can see the flowers. Aren't they gorgeous? If this is not inspiring, what could be? What could be? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 or 10 flowers. And then another orchid of mine is also blooming. This is smaller, this is Cattleya. She has spent the whole summer outside too. And she actually bloomed outside, and I was surprised that she started blooming quite soon after that again. This time the flower is not so bright yellow, so I stopped fertilizing because I thought that the summer is over and blooming is over, but she didn't agree with that. She started making buds again. The pot is a bit broken, I have to change that, but I haven't wanted to disturb the plant too much. In the journal that I call my colored pencils diary, I have a picture of Wanda, a sort of ornamental version of Wanda hanging on the ceiling. But lately I've created this spread. The idea for this spread came when I started a new painting. The painting is for the exhibition that is winter themed. And you know, I'm not a big fan of winters. Maybe I should live somewhere else than in Finland. We have terrible winters. At least last winter was absolutely terrible. Lots of ice. My dog was very young and I had to walk her a lot. And lots of icy roads and cold and such. I hope this winter will be warmer. But yeah, I'm taking the challenge and I'm painting a winter themed painting. I don't show that yet, but I realized that when I started painting it, I realized a couple of things. One thing was that I want to make the winter scenery a bit more static than what my paintings usually are. I often paint sounds and movement and all kinds of dynamic things. And this time I wanted to, you know, calm down a bit. And then Japanese woodblock prints came to my mind. There are some beautiful winter sceneries in Japanese art, and my husband is a fan of everything Japanese, and our front garden is Japanese garden, and he also has bonsai trees and such. And I thought that I could make something there in a bit Japanese style. And this is where my colored pencil journal gets handy, that I can sort of how would I say, I don't sketch my paintings. I paint intuitively, and I don't use any photos or I don't use any sketches or such. But when I want to study the style that I want to achieve, then I can use my colored pencil diary, my colored pencil journal, little journal, to experiment what kind of elements make the Japanese woodblock print style. This is not color-oriented project. I've just used the shortest pencils that I've had just to use them up. But I've made a scenery that is a bit more static and calm than my sceneries usually are. And even if it's abstract, you know, there's the clear horizon, and then often Japanese art has a dark line on the bottom and then a darker area, horizontal area on the top. I realized that in Japanese style the movement is often evident, but it's in the small elements, and then the bigger elements are more static and more horizontal, like these here in the sky. And then the movement is in a smaller elements, like here. So I love to analyze different kind of art style, and I love to pick things from different style to enrich my style. And when you think about that, there's this kind of attitude that when you see art that is very different from yours, then you don't immediately think that I don't like that and that's nothing for me. Because, you know, many styles have something that you can borrow, that you can learn to do, and you can integrate with what you already have done. And I think that's the development of style, the natural development of style is not to narrow down but to expand. The same thing with the imagination. Then the idea is not to narrow down but to expand. And I find this kind of expanding and growth process really interesting, and it always brings new energy for my art making. Then I've painted a lot this month. I've made one small painting which is called The Spirit of the Rose. Small paintings can be quite a lot of work, but on the other hand, I feel that they don't require so much thinking time, so they are easier that way. I can listen to radio and I can think about all kinds of things, and I don't have to focus so much on the expression, because most of the time that is spent on a small painting like this is to try to get the brushwork neat enough. I like to paint small now and then just to keep the quality of the brushwork good. And you know, quality of the brushwork also applies to colored pencils, even if we don't work with brushes but work with the pencils. Your colored pencil work becomes much more attractive when you use more time for coloring, so that the single strokes don't show so much. Many times when we create colored pencils and it feels that, oh, this is nothing, we're just in the beginning. And then when we continue coloring in different directions and continue building the color layer by layer, then the colored pencil work becomes much more attractive and beautiful. Then I have a couple of more paintings, and I will show them partly here, but I also put some pictures so that you can see them better. This is maybe a medium-sized painting, and I will put a a little video that shows how it progressed step by step. Then I have a third painting, which is called Forest of Wishes. This has a clear fantasy feel, I think. That's all this time, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. Remember that I blog weekly, even if I don't do these videos so often. So if you subscribe my weekly emails at www.peonyandparakeet.com, you also get a reminder when I've blogged a written blog post. I love to write, and I love to write creatively, and I also show lots of pictures in my blog. So this is just sort of summary, and I have much more detailed information and detailed pictures of the project, and more what has happened to me lately and what I've thought and how I feel about art and ideas and inspiration about art. So go to www.peonyandparakeet.com and subscribe my weekly emails if you haven't yet. I also have online classes, many for colored pencils, also at www.peonyandparakeet.com. And then I have a hub website at paivierola.com, which has a gallery of my oil paintings and such, and all the links for the blog and shop and all that stuff. So I hope you will visit and hope you subscribe. We'll see what kind of video will come next. But last time when I asked you to comment how you like these videos, well, I just ramble and which are not so formal and not so carefully edited. I only got positive feedback, so I was encouraged to make another one. So if you like this one and this is your first video, maybe you want to check the previous video too. And I have lots of videos about colored pencils in my channel.